I know. I'm wondering, I'm doing European studies, I'm always focusing on the politics and economics. So I was wondering, during the current Euro crisis, was there any moment that either you or the ECB itself was put in a difficult position because of the political system?
No.
No?
So that's surprising. If you meant by your question, was there a time when the Governing Council, the ECB, felt like they had to comply with political instructions, or no?
No, right.
I just can't remember that.
Okay.
So only good working together with governments and politicians. So only good working together with politicians and governments.
Well, more than working together, we have our own mandate, we have our own objectives, and we stick with that.
Own objectives? So yeah, own objectives, but it sounds a bit of like different ideas about
price stability.
Yeah.
So when we look at the banking union, though,
yes,
this was generally speaking a political decision.
Yeah.
Would this put you into any sort of operational difficulty, for instance?
Well, it certainly is a very ambitious and challenging project. We have been the leaders, really, the European Summit in June last year, decided that they would move ahead with this project, and they thought that the most realistic thing to do, most pragmatic thing to do, was to use the ECB as the sort of facilitator, the institution that would set up this new entity of the single supervisor, simply because we are 17 governors, central bank around that table, and if I'm not mistaken, at least 14 are also supervisors. Mm-hmm. So because like in the Netherlands, in Italy, in France, and in many other countries, the supervision is within the central bank. So that was I think the reason. So there was an article of the treaty that suggested that this could be done.
When, for instance, a bank becomes distressed, or when a supervisor finds something not in order, and on the other side you have the monetary side, basically trying to keep this bank alive. So how does this work in practice?
No, I wouldn't agree with you saying when you say the monetary side keeping this bank alive, because we have banks can be our monetary policy counterparty only if they are viable and properly capitalized. Mm-hmm. So unviable banks or banks with capital which is below regulatory capital have to be either resolved or recapitalized. To be monetary policy counterparties, they have to be recapitalized. So it's not exactly this, but it would be two separate bodies. There would be the supervisory board, which would be having all the supervisors around sitting around that table. And then you have the governing council, which is basically responsible, because that's what the treaty says, for any decision. So in this period, the decisions would actually, from all practical purposes, be taken by the supervisory board, and then they would be, as a rule, approved by the governing council. So there wouldn't be interference. Okay. The organization would be set up in a way that would not be interference from the governing council into the supervisory board.
Could it be a risk, though, that governments might rely more on central banking liquidity provisions instead of perhaps dealing with it themselves?
No, because the liquidity provisions are being, as of today, are being set up by our statutes and our rules. So, no, nothing changes with respect to that.
Okay, thank you.